What happens at laser tag never stays at laser tag.
Laser Unfocused Tag Talk.
Laser Unfocused Tag Talk.
I feel like you could be like in Ghostbusters or something.
Oh my God, you have got some stories.
Let's talk about laser tag.
Who knew you were a laser tag legend?
Time to get laser unfocused. Tag Talk with Tivia.
Welcome to Laser Unfocused Tag Talk. Hi, I'm Tivia. A bit of cross-system history was made recently by one player who can now claim first-place wins in both the Laserforce and Zone national tournaments, who joins me to share stories from both of those competitive scenes. So my guest today has carved out a little piece of laser tag history, and I am delighted to be speaking with Matthew Hogan, aka Taipan, from Brisbane, Australia. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Well, I am so pleased to be talking with you because you have done something that's incredibly rare. Now, there have been other people who have achieved some cross-system laser tag success, but you recently achieved the very rare accomplishment of being able to say you have a first-place win at both the Laserforce and Zone Australia national tournaments, which is a first, as I understand it, for that particular system combination, and both very huge competitive scenes. And so tell me a little bit to start with about when and where and how these took place. And there was a couple of years in between, I understand. So could you walk me through your tournament roster, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started competitive laser tag in probably 2011, 2012, that kind of crossover, 17 turning 18. I was a cricket player and a tennis player, and injuries didn't kind of go the way I wanted things to go. So to keep my competitiveness up, being an only child, always competitive, I jumped in and started playing Laserforce. So I'm a Laserforce natural. That's my home system. Started at the home of Laserforce in Brisbane, and played there on off, but pretty full on up until 2018. So I won my first internationals in Sacramento in California. The Brisbane A team came over. Previously to that, I had got a third place in Brisbane. I was on the Brisbane B team and we got third. The Brisbane C team actually got second. But yeah, obviously super happy to get over to Sacramento, win that. I actually did my ankle in the last game of finals as well, so I'm glad that it didn't continue going. There's a few stories around that which we won't go into. That's for the late night edition. And yeah, in 2015, 2016, some of the Laserforce side operators who had previously been Zone side operators started to run some Australasian titles. So we went up and competed. We won in Rockhampton, and then we got second in WA the year after. And all of them were Zone natives. So we turned around and got talking and made some friendships and all that kind of stuff. And one of the women there, her name's Simi. She's actually just been inducted into the Zone Laser Tag Australia Hall of Fame this year. So she was a massive committee member, had won herself in 2007, give or take. She turned around and she messaged one of the girls who was my first captain, Griffo, and said, "This kid's got a heap of potential. He really doesn't even need to pick up a pack, just grab him." So that's where my crossover came in Zone. I was actually picked up for a Queensland team without ever touching a Zone pack.
Oh my goodness.
Which is crazy because at that point in time in 2017, there was 34 Australian teams. And in Queensland, there was 5 or 6 teams. So it wasn't like there was a spot being handed out to everyone, but they needed someone, and I was the lucky person that got the phone call and, "Hey, what are you doing? Do you want to come to Adelaide?" Now, it's funny because Zone is probably, it was the achievement that I wanted the most. Internationals was always like the goal, and this is probably the ego talking. I was always kind of at the level that I knew that I was going to get one, where I'd won MVP in internationals prior to actually winning internationals. So in terms of playing ability, I knew I could stand up with the absolute best. And specifically at that point in time, nowadays I'm a little bit older, the knees don't work anywhere near as well, and I feel like I've started to come back to the pack, where in the past I think there was probably 2 or 3 players that really stood out. One being from the States with Scythe, who I think has played Armageddon or something like that. And then Rusty in Brisbane as well as myself. Rusty was probably the one that was head and shoulders above the rest. He's will go down as the best Laserforce player of all time. And then, myself, who could, in Brisbane specifically, really go toe-to-toe with him. I think when it came to crossing over to Zone, it was one of those things I walked in and it was a completely different environment. I didn't know how to hold the phaser because in Australia we play on Helios Pro, the PNC system. And for those who haven't played the big, clunky, vacuumy kind of phaser, so getting used to that, getting used to how you play, like when you're playing Laserforce, the biggest rule is covering and playing very central, especially at an international level, to Zone where your arms are above your head the whole time or low when you're moving in a completely different way. I was out of my depth and I was out of my comfort zone. And I think there was a number of people that saw a stack of ability, but I think at that point in time as well, I probably wasn't the happiest person. So that reflected in my attitude. And from there, I think it was my own stepping stones that led me down this journey and down this path to where we are now, which is in 2025. I'm able to say I'm a nationals champion.
That's amazing. So that's in the Zone scene that you picked that up, and that's like I said, tremendous to hear you talk about the numbers of teams that you have in Australia. That's just a phenomenal scene. So that makes it all the sweeter an accomplishment, I would think. But especially
absolutely.
So hard for those years.
Well, I think the thing that makes it harder as well is that to be able to do it after so many years is something that my team and I specifically wanted to try and achieve. But the team that we were going up against, there's a team that is in Queensland called Catalyst. They were originally called Wolfpack. Wolfpack started in Brisbane in 2016. They were a group of 17-year-old boys at that point in time, so all of them were young. They finished third in Brisbane. In Adelaide, the year after, they got second. And then on Helios Pro, they never lost since. So this is the first time that they have lost on Helios Pro since Adelaide, which was 2017. We've played 2 nationals on H2. In both of those nationals, they got second. So there was one team, which was Hobart, that was better. It was their home system. But to be able to compete with a team on their home system at that level. And then that team is also the team that went, 4 of them were the team that went and won Zone Worlds. So this is a team that, if it's not the best of all time, it is well and truly in the conversation. So for us, it was a case of, to be the best, we had to beat the best. And if we couldn't achieve that, we were never going to win. They would always have that. Now, the team that I came onto, I was always more a fan of building my own team and training my own players. Being in Australia, we call it in Queensland specifically, we call it a GC, a game control, which is your lead attack. Being a game control, it was one of those things that I think I liked knowing what I was getting. I liked the mold that I could build on someone. And this year was kind of one of those things that I threw my team away. We had a couple of people stepping away anyway due to family and having a baby. And then, yeah, I got an offer from the Spartans, which was a team that had finaled in Sunny Coast in 2019, got fourth in Darwin in 2020, and then finaled in Bendigo and Hobart, and then actually separated for Albury in 2024. And then they kind of reformed with older members of the team from 2019 and said, hey, do you want to give it a crack? And I went, if there's any chance, now's the chance. And it was funny because the team was probably one of my major rivals. It was the team that I got along with without getting along with prior to jumping onto it. So, yeah, there was a lot of... I was the captain of the third Queensland team and in zone 3 teams in the arena. You played a lot of games against the other top 2, and Catalyst always felt like there was that distance, there was that stepping stone, there was that aura where even if they weren't necessarily better than you, they were just able to get over the line. No matter what they did, they were just able to get there. And then with Spartans, they were a little bit more touchable because they didn't really have that track record of winning. And so the competition was fierce, and now to be able to turn around and say that I was the captain for the team is a bit more surreal. I think the whole experience has been a bit surreal. And yeah, a little bit eye-opening and fun and exciting, but definitely more relief.
Well, that's wonderful, and congratulations. And can we show off what you achieved? Got a little...
Yeah, I think we have to get
can't say a little trophy.
the Zone Nationals.
That's amazing.
The big shield out.
Love that.
Yeah, it's nice to have our name on it finally. You might not be able to see this. This is the first one from this trophy. It's New Zealand. Up until Hobart won 2, the rest was Queensland.
And what is the year on the earliest one we're looking at?
So 2014 is the one on this. There was a previous shield that was filled up. So Australasian Championships have run since 99 or 2000. And at their peak, got 37 teams. There has been a team cap on it for the last couple of years. But I have also just stepped onto Zultak, and I think this year was the lowest year of attending for a couple of reasons. Since 2014. So we had 23 teams this year, which is still a good turnout by any count. But yeah, I think I've just stepped onto the committee, and one of my major goals is going to be to grow the scene again and make sure that we're healthy and kicking for a long, long time to come.
That's great. Now, you were starting to say, quite an honor to see that name on the shield, but I want to talk about the name because I always find it very interesting to hear about where do code names originate. So how did you become Taipan?
There's actually a couple of reasons. One, I love snakes. Growing up my entire life, I have always loved snakes, loved and adored them. Some people turn around and go, oh God, get them all away from me. Don't even have them in the same postcode. Where I have always loved snakes. Then the second thing was that I studied Chinese from about 10 years of age. So as a culture, as a language, everything, I was blessed to be able to go to the Olympics in Beijing in 2008 and met some amazing people through that. In 2006, so the year before I started playing, my first game was in 2007. We went to Chinatown. There was a group of us that went to Chinatown, and we went and saw, we'll forever forget what they called her, a mystic or a sightseer or whatever, fortune teller. She wasn't a fortune teller. And basically what she did was she read your palms, and then she read your arms, and then she gave you a spirit animal. And so she turned around to me and she said, well, you're born in the year of the dog. You're very clearly a dog. And I went, oh, okay, shock horror. And she said, but I don't like doing that cliche of all of that kind of stuff. So she went looking and she went, you're a leader, and I can tell that you're kind of an individual, but you're searching for something. What you're searching for, I don't know, but you're driven in your direction and where you want to go and how you want to do it. And don't be afraid to necessarily use the venom and everything to get there. I can see you being a Taipan. And the other thing that she said was the translation in her dialect from where she was actually from is Taipan was the name of the mafia boss. The direct translation in her local dialect was big boss.
Okay.
So she turned around and she said, I can see you being that. I can see you being the leader. I can see you being the head. So yeah, I basically, when I went to Laserforce, they're like, what do you want to be? And I went, oh, well, Taipan kind of works.
Love it. I love to hear those stories.
Yeah, so it's been Taipan ever since. I think I started a couple of other accounts because I wanted that higher average score back in the day when you're a kid. And I think I don't remember what the other two were called. There was two others. But yeah, at some point I went straight back to Taipan because that's what everyone knew me as. And I'm sure some of the Laserforce boys will tell you I was a snotty little brat in some of the forums that they used to have. And they love to remind me of it. They turn around and they go, God, like, you've turned into such a great guy. You're such an angry little shit. Like, what was wrong with you back then? I was like, testosterone, ego, like, disaster. Now, like,
Oh,
so
like we
glad
never
you're
run
so much
across
better
any
now.
of that in laser tag.
Never. I don't know what you're talking about. I was public enemy number one at one point when it came to that. And everyone loved to remind me of it. When nowadays, I was actually talking to Rusty last week, and I turned around and I said, aren't you glad that I've turned out the way that I have? And he went, you're definitely a lot more tolerable than what you were, and we can actually have a conversation now. And I went, yeah, it's good, isn't it?
Everybody goes through phases.
Oh, absolutely. And I tell you what, I'm glad that I won this now and not 5 years ago. Otherwise, I would have been unbearable.
Well, things happen in the right timing, I guess.
Absolutely.
Have you ever dabbled in playing in any other systems of laser tag besides Zone and Laserforce?
So in Australia, they are our major two. Obviously, with PNC and Laserforce both being built and made in Australia, I don't know whether Laserforce International still is. I know that Len Kelly sold. They were the dominant ones in the market. So I think I've played Darklight once when I was in the States at some point, but I haven't dabbled outside of that. They're the two most dominant systems over here, so it's hard to actually find something else, specifically in Brisbane, that isn't those two. Even at the Sunshine Coast, the whole region is really set up where you've got three major sites. You have Laserforce in Brisbane, which is the home of Laserforce. You've got Laser Zone Launton, which I actually started playing at. I was on a Brisbane team originally, which is run by Butzer, who's one of the Hall of Famers, and Wooldot, who is a former Maroon, so a former three-time champion. And I think he's only missing one trophy from being a Grand Slam champion as well. So both of them almost Grand Slam champions, but not quite. And then, yes, Sunshine Coast, which is where the Spartans play out of, is run by Raven, who was the Nationals champion in her own respect, and is really what's the best word? She's really the front runner for women in the sport. She's also on the committee, but she was the second woman ever or the third woman ever to win nationals. She's won a record amount of women's titles, or tied record. with another woman. She's the first woman to ever make doubles finals. She's the first woman to ever make solos finals. So to play under her as well is amazing. And we in Queensland, we are incredibly lucky to have the owners in the community that can back us in both. I know that Len Kelly doesn't own Brisbane anymore, and I am going to apologise at this point because I don't know what the new owners' names are. When I went into Zone, I really dived in. I still play Laserforce and building up to internationals this year in Brisbane. Is going to be awesome. But Len was always super supportive. I know that the new owners are super, super supportive of the league scene and trying to grow that and making sure that there is a league around and people are having fun. But yeah, I can't speak highly enough of the two Zone side operators. Between Raven, Butzer, and Bulldog, they're the best side operators anywhere in the world. They back us 110%. Sure, we're a pain in their ass. What playing base isn't? We're going to cost money. We're going to break gun cords. Someone's going to put their ass through a wall accidentally. Sorry, Katie. I literally did it at Nats. I had to walk out of the middle of like Cascade at the end of Cascade 2, and I just turned around and I went, Katie, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to be the guy that breaks your arena and doesn't own up to it. Like, I have put a hole in the wall. And she was like, what on earth did you do? And I said, I just clipped it with my ass cheek. There was a hole this big. I ripped a gaping hole in the wall. And I was like, I'm so sorry. And she's like, well, thanks for owning up to it. Like, a lot of people wouldn't do that. But they're so, so supportive and want the region to do well. And this year, as a team, we bought 4 of the 7 shields back to Queensland. I think the only shield that didn't actually come back to Queensland was women's. I think every other shield came back to Queensland. So it's nice that they're home. But yeah, just super supportive side operators are the key to everything in this game that we play. And yeah, I apologize for going off on a tangent on other systems that I've played, but yeah,
no, your stories are great, and that's
you
great
wouldn't
to
want
hear.
to. You wouldn't want to play another system over here. You wouldn't want to bring one in. It wouldn't work because everyone is so immersed in their own scenes.
Well, that's a real testament to the operators that you're dealing with, and that's really cool to hear. And being that you are so immersed in both systems, I would love to hear kind of a compare and contrast. How do you find the tournament scenes to be different between the Laserforce and the Zone scenes?
Yeah, absolutely. And massively, massively different. I'm going to make an argument for argument's point. And I've done it both, so no one can argue with me. No, feel free. Go for it. The Australasian Championships is the best tournament that I've ever played in Zone. It is so competitive. The people are amazing. There's so many volunteers, so many hours put in. Not everyone's going to get along. That's as simple as it is. It's the world, right? The world we live in, not everyone is going to get along. But for the vast majority, you can go over and you can have a conversation and you can sit down and relax, but everyone's there for the same goal, which is to try and win. The playing base is awesome. We get every state in Australia and New Zealand here playing. So it's a real testament to the people that have built the tournament. And I will never, ever, ever say that one is better than the other. But in terms of the tournament base, Zone Championships is the best tournament that I've ever played. Laserforce Internationals is home. Like, you can fly to New York and it's jazzy and pretty, or Vegas and it's jazzy and pretty and it's fun, but it's not home. Internationals is home. I know them. A lot of them are like brothers. A lot of them have seen me through the darkest days of my life. I've seen them through the darkest days of theirs. It's home. And I will always love internationals. I will always love Australasian Championships, but I will happily, in front of everyone that has ever stood up against me, say SM5 is the best game mode of any system anywhere in the world. I know that I've only played the 2, but Game format wise, SM5 wins. It is so much fun. It is so complex. It is just awesome. The best competition is Zone.
Okay. I can see both sides of that, and you do have a very cool perspective to be able to speak to both ends. What do you like best about each format?
Yeah, absolutely. So with Laserforce, I think it's the game itself is enjoyable. Having a different position for each player, having to go up head to head with whoever you go up against. In Brisbane, when we play League, it's a randomized system. So the system actually takes numbers, calibrates your levels, and goes commander against commander, heavy against heavy, scout against scout, scout against scout, ammo against ammo, medic against medic. I think it actually pools your 3 hits though, so you could have a really good commander and a really good heavy and a really bad heavy and a really good commander. So it balances. I think I did that the wrong way around. But anyways, so it balances the game, which I think is awesome because you're going to have every game that's going to be a different test. In the past, when we built teams, it's a case of how you structure it. And it's really funny because when I used to captain, I don't know whether there's a track record of this, but there was about a 5 or 6 season run where my team didn't lose. And it was because every single time we versed Rusty, I always had both my 3 hits. I always made sure that I had my commander and heavy stashed up the sleeve so that when we versed Rusty, I had both my 3 hits. I could throw everything at him and make sure that we win. When it comes to other players, like one of the greatest players of all time, Traj, I'd always keep my scouts because he would hate it when I played scout against him. And it'd just tilt him every single time. So I'd play both my scouts against him, and then I'd play both my resupplies against another captain who I knew that man for man, I'd be able to hold my own as a resupply and be able to defend ourselves. But yeah, I think the game mode, how it plays, every game being different, the format just kind of does it itself. With regards to Zone, I love that being my non-premier format. Actually, I can't really say that anymore. I've won the bloody thing. Being my non-natural format, probably the best word. It's one of those things that I have to continuously push myself. There is times, especially on H Pro. H Pro is a system that, if you've ever played, the bane of the system is doubles. Doubling with your player, which for other players on other systems, mutuals, putting each other down. As a lead attack, it's the worst possible situation for me. I don't get to crack a base. I don't get to run a game. I just have to struggle my way through things. So with Zone, it's the continual, if I'm not on, I'm off. And I've got to work out how to get my way into the game. With Laserforce, I could be out of a game and brute force my way back into it. That was just how I could play. With Zone, I could brute force my way nowhere. You just couldn't do it. So you'd have to do something else, and you'd have to be able to think on your feet, and you'd have to be able to be mobile, you'd have to be able to move, you'd have to be able to work around this. And in Australia, we play with baselines as well. So it's one of those things that I know other countries, I know the Europeans don't always play with baselines. We play with baselines. So you have to be active so you can dive the doors. We play at speed. So you have to be able to be alive. So the continual thing of having to stay on and being up on your timing and paneling and making sure that if one thing doesn't work, you have something to go to. If that's not working, you have something to go to. And just being able to develop a game and The other thing, and something that I haven't really touched on, is the team sense in Zone. In Laserforce, when we've played internationals, if I've had a bad game, Rusty's had a good game. If Rusty's had a bad game, I've had a good game. It really doesn't matter when we're playing on the same team. One of us will have a good team, one of us will have a bad game, will still be good enough to elim a team. In Zone, there is none of that. It's not a case of, hey, Rusty, get me out of a jam. I'm in the shit. Help. It's a case of you're calling on everyone to work together and, hey, how's defense going? Defense has dropped 2 bases. Oh shit! Well, we've got none, and 6 minutes have gone. What do we do? How do we do this? Where are we going? Are we dumping? Are we staying? Am I pulling 3? Am I pulling 4? How do I get back into this game? I think I love both formats. I still would always say that game mode SM5 is better, but the competition at Zone and the need for reliance on your team. I was so blessed to get the team that I've been able to play on. We worked our ass off for 9 months to get to this moment that we had. And even then, I still don't think we necessarily believed it. I think it was all a relief thing. I had the shield like sitting next to me on the wall in our accommodation, so that when I woke up, it was actually there. Like, it just didn't feel real. And I think that's a testament again to the team we versed. I think Catalyst being one of the greatest teams to ever pick up any laser tag system, let alone just a zone system, with their track record and their victories. To me, I think that's what made it almost not feel real. That I don't remember. I've never beat them. There's been 0 point in time that I've beaten them at the Nationals. So to actually walk out and hear your name called and then be able to grab it and touch it and bring it home, and surreal.
Definitely sounds like that. Well, shields aside, what drives you after all these years to keep playing?
I tell you what, in Zone, that shield was really the major thing. So now I've got to go back to the drawing board of what do I do next. In Zone, to me, it was always community. To me, it was, even in Laserforce, my background from 2014 onwards was league coordinator. So Trudge was hanging up the boots. He was old. He needed knee replacements and hip replacements and head replacements and all of that. He was falling apart. I think he's still falling apart. It's more his head now. He definitely needs that replaced. Me and his son took over as league coordinators. So we really tried our best to make sure that Brisbane was sustainable, and we made right decisions. We made wrong decisions. In 2018, I was having some real rough times in my life, so I actually stepped away from both at one point. I didn't play either. I just went, I've had enough. I was actually really lucky that there was a couple of people that were with me. Otherwise, things may not be the way they are today. But I stepped back into Zone at the end of 2018, start of 2019, got picked up by my old team and went to Zone Nationals in 2019. And in mid-2019, Butzer turned around to me. There was another player that was doing all the trainings, but couldn't really do the league coordination. And he turned around and he said, well, do you want to be the league coordinator? And I went, yeah, okay, sounds good. So between then and the end of 2022, start of 2023 in there, I was the league coordinator at Launton. So I was the one bringing the kids through, showing them how to play. This is the mold. So I was good enough without being exceptional. at that point in time. I won my first trophy in 2020. I won Lord of the Rings. So I always felt like I'd written my little piece of history, my little slice of history at that point anyway, because I was like, oh, well, I've won a trophy in both. It kind of counts. Didn't count. Ignore everything I said in the past. It's a lie. So that was something that I always held close. Without certain people, I never wouldn't been able to play. Without Traj running the league at Brisbane, Brisbane never would have been playing SM5. There probably wouldn't be an internationals if Traj didn't do what he did in Brisbane. With Butzer was a guy that grew up in Perth. He worked at Zone in Perth and then moved across and opened his own sites in Queensland and has now started a family and lives in northern New South Wales, living his dream, which is awesome. But he built the scene from the ground up. Queensland has won 10 national trophies now. So it's the most decorated state that Australasia's ever seen. And without him and Callum, there would be no state. So it was one of those things that it felt rewarding to give back. I was also able to build a team off of it that we got third in Bendigo in 2022, which was an awesome accomplishment. So yeah, to be able to see people coming through and two boys that I trained, they're actually identical twins, actually won doubles this year, which is the second premier event at Australasian Championships. So to be able to see them achieve things like that is something that is important. It's important to me. It's important to people because without that, you don't have growth. Without growth, you go backwards. As soon as you start going backwards, you have that issue of it doesn't exist anymore. And I know that there's a number of different sites and systems that have been through that and have gone through that. And if they haven't regrown, they're gone. So yeah, I think that's one of the things that does keep me going is the ability to be able to give back. I do like having my little jots in the history books, but I think if I was to look at anything, that would be the number one thing. I think like we've got New Zealand next year. Flip a coin whether I try and defend with the boys or whether I turn around and do something else. I've got no idea. I think I'm just going to save the moment just a little bit longer and see if it's it took a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of trips to the Sunshine Coast, which for any American, it's about an hour and 20 minutes drive. Queensland's a big place, and this might be in like the tiniest little corner of Queensland. It's still a big place. So yeah, it's tricky to know what the future holds. I know that I would love to go into Brisbane and win internationals in August, and then actually have done it both in the same year. That's the next goal. So getting back onto Laserforce, I'm actually waiting to see if there is if there's an update, because I saw a photo that there was a fire at Laserforce Brisbane on Saturday. So I don't know what's going on there.
Goodness.
I don't think there's too much damage other than smoke damage. So I think, fingers crossed, everything's fine.
No.
But we'll obviously find out in the coming hours as to what's going on there, even if they need another week. Everything seemed to be okay, which is good. But yeah, that's the next goal. And then after that, no idea.
Well, very good. Well, I wish you success there, even though you will be competing with a couple of guys from my home site, but I wish you all success. So,
Who's coming from your home site?
I believe Beans is coming from the home site.
Beans is washed up. That's it. You can tell him I said it. Can tell him to watch the podcast.
I think Cody is going from my home site too, out in Syracuse, and of course, from Detroit area. So go US.
Yeah, look, Cody's trying to get me over for Armageddon to win the Triple Crown, I think he's calling it now. So,
Well, you got to come over. Absolutely.
oh, I plan on it. I've always said when it goes back to New York, I'll go to New York. Yeah,
Very
love New
good.
York.
Then we'll meet face to face.
Absolutely. I'm trying to get Beans to push it to like November so that it's nice and cold, not like horrible Brisbane weather. It's not working. It's not working.
Well, we got a lot of enthusiasm throughout this entire scene, but I love that one of your goals is to keep on growing it. And so I'd love to know if you could give one piece of advice to up and coming newer players in either scene, what would it be?
It's funny because about 6 weeks ago, actually it's about 8 weeks ago now, I started to have something that I've never had before, which was internal conflict. I started to doubt myself. I started to really get in my own head about things. It's something I have never, ever, ever done. I have always backed myself 110% in everything that I've done. And I think it was all the pressure of everything just kind of culminating. So for people who are starting, find an idol and listen to them religiously. Make sure you find the right idol, because there is plenty of wrong ones out there. But if you find the right person to show you how to play, to show you the ropes and teach you all the good things and the good habits, follow them to the end of the world.
Good mentor.
A good mentor is one of the most invaluable things you could ever get. Okay. The second thing is, and this is something that I have been told so many times, shoot things, don't die. It's the easiest way to win laser tag. You shoot things, you don't die, you win. Done. But
can I put that on a t-shirt?
Absolutely. I actually think like we should just have it as the universal laser tag slogan. Shoot things, don't die. Now, it's funny because when you get to competitions, when you start playing, I reached out to a heap of people to basically be like, help. I'm lost. I'm losing myself. And it's funny because we have a maze map of Sunshine Coast.
Okay.
And I took this into finals so that I could read it to myself every single time. I wrote down 3 different lines from 3 different people. The 3 lines were: play what's in front of you. You can't play anything else. You can think about everything else. You can only play what's in front of you. Don't be scared to take a risk. Be scared of what happens when you don't. And play your game. Don't try and play someone else's. It's not how it's going to work. I understand that when you get up against the best teams of all time and the best teams in history, it's hard not to play their game. They have structured everything so that it is exactly their game the whole way through. But if you can do those 3 things, you can accomplish anything. So I think they're the 3 that I stand by the most. They're the ones that kind of resounded with me, and they're the 3 that I took all the way to a Nationals championships.
I think that's good advice just in general for life as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's an important thing to keep your mental safe. Keep what you want to do closest than anything else. I think if you start to get into what other people do, and it's funny, one of my old teammates, they finished 9th this year. And he was leading their attack up until about 2 months out from Nationals. They swapped it over. And I look back on it now and reading that, it's exactly what he always used to do. He'd never focus on what we were doing. He'd never focus on how we played or how we were going to play our game. Our structure always needed to be around who the better team was. How are we going to structure to beat that? Not we're going to play our game to try and win. It was how do we nullify them to win? And I think it's funny because I kind of never ever spoke about it, or it kind of never switched in my head that is what I have said to my teams for 8 years since I started playing Zone. We play our way. We don't play theirs. We play our way. We play how we want to play, and we make them. And we were never the flashiest team. The Spartans, maybe. We had enough flash and pizzazz. But my other teams, they were never flashy. They were, God, what's the American? In Australia, there's a team in the NRL called Cronulla Sharks. And they have never been this team up here. They've always been this team here.
Mhm.
And so rather than getting teams up there, they would drag this team down. They'd bring them down to their level. And as soon as they're at their level, they win every time. So that was my team. My team didn't have to be the flashiest team. It was the team that was just behind. But if we drag them down to our level, we'll win. Where if we try and step to their level, no chance. They're better. They're 100% better than us. So, yeah, I think with the Spartans, I think man for man, we were good enough to do that. We were good enough to step to the best team and win. Whether we were good enough, whether we were lucky enough, we made all the right decisions at the right time, which was probably the saving grace. But yeah, for the best part of 8 years, my motto has always been, let's play our game. Let's not play theirs. If we play theirs, we'll lose. If we play ours, we'll win. Even if we played ours, there's times where you don't win. But if you're playing your game, you enjoy it a whole lot more.
Agreed. And I think that's good advice. Now, again, we'll put shields aside. So many years of playing laser tag. I'd love to know, does anything stand out in your mind as being like just one really favorite special memory about anything that has happened in your laser tag career?
So it has to do with a shield,
Right.
but not actually winning it. I remember Law Finals in 2020. And Lord of the Rings, for those who don't know, is you get put in a circle, 5 minutes. Your job is to get closest to 0. So you don't get any points for tagging someone. You lose points for being tagged. So for those who have never played Lord of the Rings in a nutshell. And we were in Darwin. And in the final circle, there was myself, Ben Beefy Ferris, who is, I'm going to say, the best Lord of the Rings player of all time. He has finaled 10 times. He's won twice, but trophied the rest. He, without a term this year, he won. I'm glad he didn't win because the guy that did win, who's a Catalyst player, his name's Grubb, he won, deserved it. But 2, it was his first side event trophy ever, so it meant something so much more. He'd won 4 Nationals championships, but had never won a side event. So that one meant more. That was another really cool moment, is being a master referee in that and actually seeing him accomplish that. That was a great moment. But in this finals, with one of the best players of all time, if not the best player of all time on Lord of the Rings, and another guy from Victoria, his name was Daddy, I had an amazing game 1. I won game 1. Game 2, I got termed. I cheated. I did cheat. I did a nice little drop shot and decided to slam my knee into Darwin concrete. And after game 2, my captain at the time, her name's Griffo. She was sitting side by side with another girl whose name was Gypsy. And these two have never been friends. They will say hi, they'll be fine with each other. They are not friends. They live in the same area. They play in the same region. They've always kind of been rivals. They just have never got along. They're sitting side by side, and both of them, I am like looking at my toes, trying to look for answers of how the shit did I go from being good to crap in one game. And turned around and I looked over at both of them, and both of them just like were looking at each other and then looked back at me. And then both of them were like doing this, like keep your chin up, like what are you doing, you muppet? Like get your head out of the gutter and be normal. And it was one of those moments that I will always remember. I remember it clear as day because here's two people that I love both of them. They're both great friends of mine, don't like each other, that's fine. But they're sitting side by side, worried about me. So at that point, it dawned on me that this is an individual trophy that I'm not winning for myself. And from that moment on, I've been an only child my whole life. It's always been about me. that's what an only child is. But in the last, I guess, since 2020, it's never been about me anymore. It's always been about the bigger picture. And it just gives me retrospect on certain specific moments that I have that I think of the really good times, and then I think of the bad ones as well, but it gives me perspective. And I think that's a really nice moment of my experiences. I think another moment that I will always cherish is this year, doubles. Me and my best mate, we have played together in the past. We've always been on the same team until this year. It's the first time in 5 years that we weren't on the same team. And it's hilarious because I kept saying to my teammates, I was like, I don't have my fatty. I always call him my fatty. He's a bigger guy, and since day dot, he's always been my fatty. It's never going to change. He could lose 50 kilos and he's still going to be my fatty. It's not going to change. And this year, we had some issues with the team. One of our players actually left about 6 weeks out from Nationals, so we had to change everything. This was a guy that I was playing doubles with. This was a guy I was playing triples with. And so I had to find replacements. With finding those replacements, I went to my best friend who had already had a partner. I said, I need you. I need you to come play with me. I need you. There's no ifs, buts, or maybes. You have to say yes. And he's like, I can't. I've said yes to someone else. And so I actually bribed the other guy to let me play with him. And he got to play triples with us. Now, it's hilarious because if we had played triples with the original triple, we wouldn't have finaled. We wouldn't have been good enough to final, I don't think. I think, like, we had some hotheads on the team. It wouldn't have gone well. We picked him up. We've got second in triples, which is awesome. Only just missed out. We were actually the only team that didn't get swept. It was triples elim, and we were the only team that didn't get swept. So getting second, I'm super happy with. So to be able to get that trophy with him was super important. The other thing was that in doubles, we made round 3, and we got knocked out, and he got really disappointed. And I turned around and I said, Nick, what's wrong? And he just turned around and he went, I just really wanted to give you finals. And I went, didn't care about that. And he went, what do you mean? I said, we could have been knocked out in round 1, and I didn't care about that. I got to play with you. That was what was more important to me. I had given up on winning doubles. I would have loved to have tried to have won. I would have loved to have finaled. I think everyone loves to do that. But at that point, it had always kind of been so much more than that. I could have gone and played with anyone. There was a number of spare players. I could have gone and said, hey, let's play. It doesn't matter. Result's a result. I wanted to play with him. I wanted to play with Nick. I wanted to play with Orkrai. He has been my best friend for the last probably 6 years. So it was more. And it was hilarious because the first thing I said to him is, "Are we running it back next year?" And he said, "Absolutely." And I went, "Fantastic." It meant nothing to me. That trophy meant absolutely nothing to me. The boys that it won, it meant everything to. And I'm glad that I didn't win it because I would not have anywhere near the kind of love for it or what it meant or anything like that. It would have meant nothing. It would have just been another tick in the sky that was pointless. I'm sure there'll come a time that I turn around, it might be next year, and I turn around and I go, "Hey, let's actually try and win the bloody thing." But that wasn't this year.
What I love about both of those memories is that, and everything that you've just said, you illustrate how significant community is in laser tag. But also, since you are an only child and it's all about you, how about the next section we talk about all about you? I love to end things with a little bit of rapid fire tag talk, some quick questions to you and some quick answers back. You game for this?
Let's do it.
All right, because it's all about Taipan today. All right. Other than your home site, what's your favorite site to play?
It's actually closed now. It was Adelaide. So one that's still open. I loved. Oh shit, that's closed as well. Sunshine Coast.
All right.
It's not technically my home site, but it is.
What's your favorite game format?
SM5.
What is your favorite, most obscure game format?
Fugitive. Laserforce.
Okay. What's the coolest place you've ever gotten to travel to because of laser tag?
Las Vegas.
Who's the coolest person you've ever met through laser tag?
Shit. The Chinese ambassador to the UN.
Wow, I was not expecting that. Let's pause. There must be a story there.
Yeah, so when we came across to Sacramento, there was a day that I spent by myself, and I was out doing something, and I actually don't know exactly where she was. She might be the ambassador. She was the Chinese diplomat to the UN. But her father was the most decorated calligrapher in the world.
Wow.
So what he had done is he had written an entire Chinese charter in calligraphy and a Chinese UN charter in calligraphy and was gifting it to the UN. And they had done it in an auditorium and they said, "Hey, we need a hand carrying this." So I carried it with them to, yeah. And so met her, who was, she was the Chinese, I'm trying to think of what her name is. I've got a business card somewhere because she's like, "If you're ever in China, give us a call." Yeah, she paid me $200 for it. And I got to meet her father, who has 32 doctorates in 32 different countries in Chinese calligraphy. He's the number one Chinese calligrapher in the world. And I'm trying to think of what she is. She was the Chinese art delegate to the UN. So, yeah, pretty cool.
Okay, that is probably the most unique answer I've ever gotten to that question. Back to rapid fire. What has been your favorite prize or souvenir?
Favorite prize is the shield. Has to be. Can't be. Favorite souvenir was when we were in California. We went to the USS Midway, and I bought a coin from the Midway. Those who don't know me, I love kind of my wars and things like that, and to be able to stand where Operation Desert Storm was launched from was insane. I know that's a different part of the world, but same ship.
Wow.
So yeah, that coin from the Midway would be my favorite souvenir.
Okay. What's your favorite snack at the snack bar?
honey sweet chicken chips.
Oh, that sounds good. What's your favorite brand of "we never run in the arena" shoes?
Under Armour.
Okay.
Yeah, swear by them. If you haven't got Under Armour shoes, get yourself some. They are the best shoes. Ankle support, 10 out of 10.
All right. Good tip. And what final thought would you like to share about your laser tag experiences?
Get into it. Like, it's so much fun. It'll drive you mental, but it's addiction.
In the good way.
In the good way. Exactly. You get to run around. You get to meet people. You can't go wrong.
Excellent. And you might even win a shield or two in the course of the journey.
Here's hoping.
So congratulations again. That is quite an accomplishment there. And I thank you so much for joining me and sharing some of your stories. That is my guest, Matthew Hogan, aka Taipan, who has joined the very elite community of players with cross-system national wins. So congratulations, Taipan.
Thanking you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Laser Unfocused Tag Talk. Listen for more episodes on the first and third Friday of each month. Want to be a guest on an upcoming episode? Find out more and follow my blog and website at TiviaChickLovesLaserTag.com.